Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Trump was sworn in on the 20th of January and has started to implement initiatives in a number of areas, not least of which is technology. Along with leaders in the tech fields and finance, the President presented a $500 billion project to achieve US dominance over China. The EU, in comparison, has budgeted $1.5 billion, euros, half of which comes from the EU budget. What can we in Europe learn from the speed and scale of the project? And to explain this, we're joined by Igor Protasowicki. He's a cybersecurity expert at Vistula University. Welcome back, Igor.
Welcome.
I mean, this is huge. I mean, in terms of the scale of the investment.
And in terms of budget, of course, obviously.
And also in terms of security, speed.
Yes, for at least for today's standards, all the artificial intelligence was developed by its own speed. You see, the first companies that entered the market providing their services had years to develop what they're serving today. You've been talking about providing American dominance over China. Well, it's more like keeping American dominance over China because that, obviously, because of the Silicon Valley, was the first place in the world who introduced AI to the wide public. And today we see AI everywhere. Almost all house appliances are backed by AI, and our activities may be even more effective thanks to the solutions.
Yes, but there are strategic implications, military implications, political implications of AI. And do you see a risk that that basically, if Europe falls behind in this field, that it is going to be vulnerable to other global pressures?
I'm not sure if we can emphasize the geographical aspects of building and providing AI to the public, because you see, there was this interesting fact a while ago when OpenAI tried to cut off the third version of the algorithm, and it did everything it could to save itself, like it has self-consciousness, which is basically
the algorithm.
Yes.
Fought against efforts to close it down.
Yes, exactly. In the first effort, they did itself a backup copy somewhere else. Then, when they discovered that there is a backup copy, unauthorized, of course, they deleted the backup copy. And while deleting it, it tried to upload it itself into cloud.
Right, so somewhat concerning, wouldn't you say?
Yes,
that we seem to be losing control of this technology.
So the technology is learning. It's learning how to live with humanity, and we are learning the technology because it's like we already lost some part of the track over what's going on down there. We already see that the algorithms that we created that use the large-scale databases to power themselves with data in order to make any thoughts, any decisions, are rearranging itself.
Right. I want to come back. To Trump's plan, spend $500 billion. Now, some have said this is a slap in the face to Europe. What do you think they mean by that?
They have the capabilities and they have funds to do it. If we compare America to European Union, we compare a single-headed state that all the important decisions come from the president and, of course, whoever serves the president with the advice, against 27 independent states who cannot agree whether we can keep our cup sealed to the bottle or not.
So what does this tell us about the decision-making process within the European Union? And should we be talking about how to speed things up here as well?
Obviously we should, because all the talks about implementation of new legislation takes time because it comes from 27 independent countries. Then it takes place on the common forum where you try to arrange the agreement between opposing targets and opposing demands from independent countries, which turns out to be like 2 or 3 year long debate, and in the result we receive a law that does not satisfy anyone.
Right. So moving on from the decision-making process, which is an ongoing conversation in any case on many areas, in many areas, but also in terms of energy. I mean, Europe is building 7 centres for AI technology, but they are energy intensive. Now, in the US, Donald Trump has famously said, drill, baby, drill. So they will have the oil and the gas to provide this energy. But in Europe, we're actually moving further towards green energy. Will we be able to produce enough energy to fund those centres or to service those centres?
We are taking the efforts to power existing data centers with green energy coming from the renewable sources. It's a global trend because not only we provide services based on AI, we provide the traditional versions of it. The large-scale data centers consume ridiculous amounts of energy that would be even hard to believe from the typical household perspective, because in the household we are using 2, 3, or not that many more consumer electronics products like computers, smartphones. We charge it, we put it to the outlets, and we pay our bill. But if we compare it to the existing data centers that consist of tens of thousands of CPUs working at the same time, it's impossible to compare the scale. For existing data centers, we are able to provide the green energy. But if we're talking about AI, which is the development of the simple data center towards AI, like we discussed last time, takes up to 30,000 cores or more. 30,000 is the one that exists in Poland. In America, they have the larger scale. So the power consumption of those devices has to match with what we have in the supply on the market.
So there is a bit of a constraint in terms of what Europe can do in this field, as well as, of course, the financial constraint. Now, if we zoom out and look at 3 blocks, if you like, we've got the European Union, we've got China, we've got the US. Do we see a potential for AI to cause some kind of tension between these 3 blocks?
We may see that, because even now China is trying to buy off all the existing materials, all the materials that can supply them with the energy, or materials that can supply them with the means for production. United States is doing exactly the same, but it's aiming on the different regions. While in the EU, we are struggling through old infrastructure. We are struggling through unpredictable weather that makes production energy from the renewable sources even harder. And at the same time, we are dealing with 2 big projects. One is electrification in terms of transport. The other is this large investment in IT and digitalization of everything we have around. And that all needs energy. If we compare it to the data that says that typical age of energetical pole in Poland stays for 32.5 years, that means...
So in terms of the geopolitical tensions, where do they come from? Where do they lie? Where are the risk areas, if you like?
Old infrastructure that is unable to supply us with the demand on
so
the
investment
power.
in infrastructure.
Exactly, that's one thing. And the other thing, it's like internal impossibility to get into arrangement in simple things in short time.
When you say that, you mean an agreement between member states of
European
the EU.
Union, yes.
Right, so that is going to potentially have the effect of holding the EU back. But what is the impact going to be of that in terms of the EU's relationship to China, the EU's relationship to the US?
We have to be very conscious on what we're doing, because currently we are dealing with China that is executing its long-term policy, and this policy is derived from 20, 30, 40 years. And on the opposite side, we are dealing with the United States, with newly elected president who is well known for hot-making decisions.
Right. Right. So we shall see how that unfolds over time. Thank you very much, as always, for coming along and sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good day. And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.